So the first thing we need to do is re-establish absolute truth. So in the early 1900s, when situational ethics became popular, that began the downslide towards losing any unchanging code of ethics or universal code of conduct. That is no longer existing in this world. Everything is grey, and it depends on the lens that you're looking through to determine whether or not it's valid. Our entire culture is aggressively teaching the apologetics of evolution and secular humanism. If we don't teach them how to defend the faith, they won't survive the debate and the doubt that they will face as they go through their adult years. We also need to teach them the why. Why should we believe what we believe? What is the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus? We need to teach them what the apparent contradictions are and how to answer those questions. There will come a time when they're asked those kinds of things. We need to give them a solid biblical worldview to enable them to resist the battle for their minds. Does God really exist? Is the Bible trustworthy? Did the resurrection really happen? And then lastly, the subjective. How can we help them experience God for themselves? These kids often have grown up in families that have attended church their whole life, and they've accepted what their parents have told them. But the message needs to take that 12-inch journey from the brain down to the heart, where they adopt their beliefs for themselves. We can encourage them to try God and see. Let's test him out. Let's pray for something, see what happens. Keep a record of it so that in those moments when they doubt, they can look back at the records. About 4 years ago, we were about to begin a midweek program for the first time with our children's ministry. And our then 13-year-old daughter was my right-hand man, so to speak, and she was my assistant. And she was very excited about this program and had decided that the group that she would be helping out with, which was the 3rd through 5th grade girls, that she believed that God would bring 9 girls for her group. And I said to her, you know what, sweetie, it's our first year we've done this. I'm not sure how many kids we're going to get. Frankly, I hoped we would get maybe 20 kids total, and I didn't want to see her disappointed, but at the same time I didn't want to weaken her faith and her expectation that God was going to act, but I wasn't sure what to do. So I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead, sweetie, go pray for it. 9 girls, we'll pray for 9 girls. Well, she prayed, and the week before registration closed and the program actually began, she had 5 girls in her class, and I was thrilled. That was great. But she was not. She wanted 9. She believed for 9. And she said, Mom, I'm going to keep praying. And I said, you go for it, sweetie. Keep on praying. The night came when we were 30 minutes away from beginning, and she had 7 girls. Again, I was happy, and she was downtrodden. She didn't know what had happened. She had been praying for 9, and she only had 7 when the phone rang. And I answered the phone, and a lady was on the other end of the phone, someone from the community. I didn't know who she was, and she said, is it too late to bring my 2 children to the program tonight? And I said, no, absolutely not. I said, would you mind telling me how old they are and whether they're boys or girls? And yes, you guessed it. It was 2 girls, 3rd grade and a 5th grade, and that made her 9 kids in her group. And she was very excited. She had seen God work for herself, and I guarantee you she will never forget that. If you were to ask her today what the highlight was of that program, she will tell you the way that God answered her prayers. That's what we need to do. We need to somehow figure out a way to have our kids experience God for themselves and to make that head knowledge translate into heart knowledge. One way we can do that is by giving our own testimony, telling stories of how God has worked in our life, showing them that God's power is evident when we trust Him. As they experience God for themselves, that is what will restore their belief in Him. Our alphas are a whole new generation, and we must understand them if we're going to reach them.
for kids.